Welcome to another episode of Stoke Meter, and we have the pleasure of having Stu Goffman with us today. Stu, how are you, man?
I'm great, thank you, and thank you for having us, or me.
Yeah.
I have my dog that is right here, so I guess it's us.
And the daylight savings time messes that dog up, right?
A little bit.
Actually, it's a revert. It's a fall back to time. They just got to leave it in one piece.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I woke up this morning and I'm usually in Arizona. I'm in California right now. Woke up in sheer panic, not knowing if I got the right time or not. So I'm excited.
Gary, I get up normally at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
So for the this week, for the time change, it's easy for me.
Oh yeah.
But I'm falling asleep at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah. The only thing I liked about the time change was when I was in California doing travel nursing was when we got a free hour of work. That was kind of cool.
Oh, okay.
The free hour. I love it. Well, and the way that Stu and we were introduced was through our buddy Sean Reyes, the Attorney General for Utah. And Stu is the creator and executive producer of a show on A&E called Addiction Unplugged. And if I recall, you are renewed for an upcoming season, right?
Yeah, we're trying to, with COVID, they're still a little bit hesitant.
Right.
But we're hoping to start filming in January or February, and probably be on air around maybe August or September. But it's interesting when you asked me to be on the show, and you said, "Well, Sean was just on," and I'm like, "Come on, man." I'm not going to be right after Sean. He's the greatest speaker. The most elegant guy, and then you're gonna have to have me. I'm like, nah, I don't want to do this. But Maurice kept on saying, come on, you can do it. So I'm here. Maybe we can switch the order or something, but no, but Sean is the best, and I don't know if I think I told you, Maurice, Gary, when we were first filming Addiction Unplugged, probably 10 o'clock at night, I get a phone call. Normally, I'm about to go to sleep, and it says, Attorney General of Utah. So I'm like, all right, well, I've never been in Utah at the time, but there's no great thing is going to happen when I pick up the phone. So I'm going to either think about it all night if I don't answer it, or I answer it and, we'll see what happens. And it was a great thing because, it was Sean on the line, and he said, I got your number and I love what you're doing and I want to be involved. So actually he was the host and the voiceover.
Yeah.
And because he's really, really supportive and really, committed to, addiction and recovery and mental health.
Yep.
So it's, it was a great thing. And, I flew and met him in person, and it was just, we clicked.
So to make this clear, so you didn't know him at that point. He reached out to you unilaterally, it sounds like.
Yeah, but you get a phone call at 10 o'clock at night from the Attorney General, and I'm like, oh my God, I've never been there, but with ID theft and everything, you never know.
You never know, man.
Well, I was raised with guilt, and so I'm like, I didn't think I did anything, but you always, back then I would always think of the worst thing, not the best thing.
Well,
So in the end, it was a great thing. Sean is a great friend with, for me.
yeah,
And, he was great on season 1.
that's
And,
fine.
he's a perfectionist. So, we were doing the voiceovers and we're like, all right, we're good. He's like, no, I said, not that I want to do it again and again and again. And in the end, it was great. And, I obviously I met you guys through Sean, so it was all good.
Well,
That's cool.
it's neat because up to this point, and even with Sean, it's ironic. There were a number we interviewed so many shots, so I get them mixed up. But the ironic thing is, almost without exception, everyone that we have been interviewing has had a story of mental health, at least in some part, and it's a common denominator across a number of folks there. But then the other thing that we've been interviewing about, and man, I'm at a loss of words this morning. That never happens, but is addiction and how rampant it really is. And it's not just the substance abuse; it's all types of addiction. And looking at what you do with your show, how did you even come up with the idea? Because looking at your background, you have forensic accounting, you have all these other things with these financial institutions. What was the impetus for the show? And man, what have you been learning along the journey?
Well, it's interesting. I grew up in New Jersey. My dad was a CPA. I'm a CPA. My 2 grandfathers were CPAs. So I had no context about addiction. I mean, nothing. I think my dad, had one drink in front of me. Like we were not a drinking family. Then I moved to Florida, and one of my first friends in Florida was an unbelievable businessman and a raging alcoholic. Yeah. And he was a nasty drunk, and I would, we would go out and I wouldn't even drink, and I would just be his bodyguard. I'm like, don't hit him. He's just drunk. And, and I would always say, like, come on, man, go to the gym, do something positive. And in the end, he would try. He would go to the gym with me 2 or 3 times. And then the 4th day, I would call him and he said, I'm like, you ready to go? And then I knew that he was drunk. Mm-hmm. And, he was trying.
You're right.
But at the time, since I had no background in dealing with addiction, it was all about giving him tough love. Mm-hmm. And in the end, that doesn't work. Right. And in the end, one day he came to my house and he was yellow. Yeah. And he went to the hospital and never made it out.
Oh, you're kidding, man.
Yeah. And, it's, I mean, now I can joke about it. He was arrested 3 times for DWI. So unfortunately, when he died, they had a police escort. So it's interesting, like when he was alive, the police officers were chasing him. Oh. And now when he was going to the finally resting spot, they were escorting him. And it was just ironic. But, I learned a lot about, the the disease of addiction. And I did some volunteering. I did a lot of research, and I decided to open up a treatment center in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And so we can actually help a lot of people. And we ran it for about 6 years. And I learned a lot about mental health, addiction, recovery. And before that, when I saw, like a lot of people, we would say, oh, this guy's a drug addict. And the natural, the natural thinking is he made a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have to, sleep in the bed that you made. And, I used to deal with a lot of the parents, the sisters, brothers, and I realized that, no, it's not a choice. And also it affects the entire family. And, and then it really destroys a lot of lives, and not even the addict. And, then all of a sudden, all this empathy washed over me, because no one wants to be an addict. And when you see someone, I've been there when they say, oh, he's just a junkie or a homeless guy. And I'm like, you know what? That's someone's daughter or son. And that's maybe someone's father or mother. So in the end, it's not, no one wants to be there. No one wants to be prisoner to a substance. And so we sold the treatment center. And I used to love intervention on A&E. And that is more of a story of addiction. So I wanted to do this story of recovery and, make it really inspirational and hopeful, and second chances and people helping people.
Right.
And that's what resonated with Sean. And I've never done anything in media or TV. I mean, I was an entrepreneur. I am a CPA, but, I just, I'm a little bit of a bulldog, a little bit of, I just jumped in and figure it out on the way. You jump off a building and you just figure it out on the way down.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And so we were on A&E in 2019, I think the fourth quarter. And then COVID hit in 2020. So we're now getting back to hopefully filming soon.
Nice. And you've had some hammer guests over there. It's just unreal. Some of the folks that I never would have thought have been on the show. And just what are some of the things that you've been learning from that?
It's really interesting. It's all about empathy, and unfortunately, with all the political things and COVID and everything that's going on, they're not talking about addiction, mental health, and overdoses. And, it's going crazy. And there's not a lot of room in the news to talk about this, because it really, I would assume that everybody would unite around addiction and mental health, and that doesn't sell. They want it to be divisive.
It's awful.
And, yeah, that's why I can't watch the news anymore.
Mhm.
But, it really is, even the mental health, the COVID really exposed a lot of mental health, and especially people in recovery. They can't go to meetings, and a lot of things happened, and a lot of overdoses. And so I think it's going to be even when we when we show the series in 2022, it's going to be really, really relevant. And in the end, if you're on this planet for more than 10 years, everybody has scars, mental health issues. I mean, you can't go through this life without being scarred and battered and bruises. I don't care if you're rich, poor, black, white, whatever. Everybody has their own issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I manage an emergency department, and it is scaring me to death to see the number of one of the trends that I'm seeing right now is youth with severe mental issues, youth that are going down addictive paths, and a lot of it is directly tied to the pandemic.
Mhm.
And or first time patients with suicidal ideation and that type of stuff. I think your work is cut out for you coming in the next year,
Yes.
because there is so much that is going to happen because of the fallout from the pandemic. It's frightening. It's scary,
And also, and not to date myself or be an old man, but it's not the same anymore. When I was growing up, you get home from school and you play basketball or you play with your friends. And now you're going home and you play video games. And I think that life is not valued because you're killing people on the video games. And I think that is part of it. We didn't have time to think about our mental health when I was growing up. We're playing basketball, we're playing hockey, we're doing football. And I think, but again, I guess this is the way that the world cycles. And I'm sure my dad would say, oh, it's not the same. And my grandfather would say the same. So you never know.
Well, I will say though, I think I'm with you. I'm an old fogey, but at the same time, it really is different. And one of the things, again, going along with what you're saying with youth, I want to take that to a little different level. Is now they're not face to face. They're not talking directly to their friends, and not only that, they're a character that's not even themselves. So it's like, without even trying, there's this huge level of escapism that's happening, where I think a lot of our youth aren't even equipped to deal with challenges when they come along, because we kind of just had to deal with it. We'd either punch our friend in the face and then we would go play basketball, or
Right.
you know what I mean? And so I think it's at a whole nother level now as well. So anyway, that's interesting that you say that.
Well, it's interesting. So with all the interviews, we went all over the US. We interviewed a lot of people, and probably 10 times more that were not on the set. And no one really talks about it, but first of all, I don't think that addiction is a choice. And a lot of people that we met were molested as children, or had severe trauma, and they are not equipped. I don't know if I'm equipped, but they were not equipped, to handle the emotions when they were 7 or 8 or 9, and maybe, and apparently a lot of the sexually molestation is someone in their family. So you can't really tell your dad, because your dad is going to murder your uncle, or, you know, something like that. And so it's not about, I partied too much and all of a sudden I'm an addict. No, it's trying to escape what you're feeling. And it's more, no one really talks about it because it's very uncomfortable. But you know, I think that the stigma and the shame of addiction and mental health is, you know, I don't say it's not going to be, you know, it's not never going to go away. I don't think, but it's really reduced. I think, you know, 4 years ago, no one, you know, the shame and the stigma was very pronounced. And now when a celebrity or a sports celebrity wants to publish a book, the first thing is, here's my addiction story. And that didn't happen 5 years ago or even 4 years ago. So I think it's, you know, little by little, these, you know, the stigma and the shame will go away, and then more people that need help can actually get help.
Yeah, there's a I can't remember what country it is. There's a country that has a program that's you know, it's a government program, but what it does is it has people that are under addiction or have an addiction, you know, usually it's like an opioid or heroin or whatever it is. They bring them in at the beginning of the day, and they, in a safe environment, they give them their drugs in a safe environment, and then they get them to a government sponsored job, and they go and work.
Oh, really?
So it's kind of taking away that stigmatism, you know, or the, you know, the negative aspects of what it means to be an addict. Once they've taken that away, they're having massive success with.
I think it's in Italy.
Could be.
And it's interesting because I know a gentleman that, you know, works on that, and they're trying it in, I think, in Canada and I think Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
But they basically said, listen, we don't want you to die.
Yeah.
So, you know, do your thing, and we have a doctor and a nurse here. So if, you know, if something happens, we're going to be here. And when you're ready, you know, to get help, here's the resource. Yeah. And, you know, it's very controversial, but, you know, it works. I mean, I don't know if it would work in the US. You know, I'm, you know, I don't have an opinion. I'm just like a, you know, I'm doing a documentary. Yeah. But it's a very interesting approach.
You've helped me. Even those safe houses in the US that are around, you know, they're in California and some other different states, where even at the level of like kind of what you're talking about is, yeah, they can come in and have a safe environment. They can have medical supervision, that type of thing. Even that first step has made a big difference, I know, in the US. But it's funny, talking with other healthcare providers, it's still controversial with them, even though there's the data shows that it's incredibly successful, because our mindset hasn't caught up yet.
Exactly.
It's interesting.
I did say sometimes, because there are levels of empowerment that are not happening. We had Senator McAdams from Utah, and he went to one of these houses that for the homeless, and there was nothing being done within. As a matter of fact, they were enabling sorry, they were enabling bad behavior even amongst the employees, that made it so that people didn't consider these places safe. And I remember when I was in San Francisco, they were giving needles because they go, you know what, we might as well give them safe needles and such. But then they were under the bridges and all those different areas like this. So it is that follow-up. I love what you're saying, Gary, about bringing about the program in Italy, because it is something that if there is that follow-up, is if it takes away that hiding, I need to hide this stuff, and it puts it out in the open, and that embracing it, which goes to something I've, as you two have been speaking, I noticed there was another individual that we haven't posted yet that spoke about addiction and becoming addicted at age 8. And what he said was, I got into drugs at age 8 because I didn't feel accepted. It's weird. And then Stu, you brought up something that I never would have thought of, because it's easier to point the finger.
Right, of course.
It's their problem. I've been guilty of that. There's no doubt about it. But you don't know the backstory of molestation or whatever it might be. And what nailed me is one time I was speaking with this individual that I truly respected, and still do. Very, very impactful in her community, in religion, and in everything else. And then she looked at me and goes, you know, I was molested by my brother. I thought, wait, what?
And she didn't choose that. That wasn't her choice.
She didn't choose that. No, she never. She and a number of other folks that subsequently I were speaking with in the same regard, it kind of came as a matter of fact, and they were able to share that because they came to a point of acceptance and moving on past that. And
treatment.
And treatment and such. But the thing is, the other thing that you're bringing out, and both of you are bringing out, though, is that empathy. That lack of empathy is where that point of judgment comes in, that creates the divides. I mean, it's so funny how they have all these patterns that you can apply just about anywhere. But I'm looking at acceptance. I'm looking at, we have no empathy because we're judging all the time. And because of that, we're desensitized because we have that judgment, or we're desensitized because we don't have the ability to speak, and hence the responsibility, the dual responsibility is something that's lacking, because we can take individual responsibility, but let's face it, looking at your program and looking at the addicts, they could take responsibility, but if they don't have a support system of dual responsibility, it doesn't go anywhere.
You know, it's interesting. I have two things to say. First of all, because of the boom of the podcasts,
yeah,
everybody has a voice.
Yes, and
that is, you know, so you can watch a video, excuse me, you know, listen to a podcast, and you know, they have everything to, you know, every subject, every addiction, everything. And it's a really great, you know, time for this. I mean, because, you know, now, you know, maybe the networks would not, you know, want to talk about, you know, sexually molestation, you know, it doesn't sell advertising. But, you know, but a lot of people, you know, need to talk about it and see that they're not alone. The other thing is, you know, I'm a board member and a volunteer of this foundation called Horses Healing Hearts. And it's really incredible what a horse can do.
Oh yeah.
And so they deal with kids of addiction. And, you know, and you're sitting in a little circle, and they're talking, and just like you said, on a matter of fact. And they were just talking about, my dad was, buying drugs, and me and my sister were in a car seat, and my dad got into a fight with the drug dealer. And when you hear these stories,
Yeah.
I'm like, thankfully I grew up in a little cocoon, because it really just destroys, the sense of childhood.
Yes.
And it's really sad. And, Liz, who started this foundation, she went through, her mother was an alcoholic until she died. And at the Addiction Unplugged talks about people that are helping people. So, if you're a son of an alcoholic or a drug addict, or you were an addict, or your kids were addicts, you can go left and just keep it in the family, or go right and help someone else.
Yeah.
And that's what Addiction Unplugged is all about. And hopefully we're going to have Horses Healing Hearts on the second season, because it's a really, and I'm guilty for not making my time available for charities or whatever. But once I saw what they're doing, you can't not want to be involved.
And Gary and I are laughing because yesterday we were supposed to be interviewing someone from Bridle Up Hope, which is Sean Covey's foundation. They call it it's the Rachel Covey Foundation, which is they lost their daughter, but in the process of her funeral, they had a number of girls come up and say, I want you to know that Rachel did some incredible things because she took me horseback riding. And it was a starter of this big organization, this charity that helps girls overcome mental health issues. They were saying 7 out of 10 young women have some type of mental health issue. And I don't know if the issue is the proper word, but just something that they're dealing with. And I'm wondering if these two organizations could work together to synergize.
What's the name of the other
it's called Bridle Up Hope. And
okay.
Ironically, we have an interview because there was some miscommunications, but next week we'll be interviewing the program director of that. But we'd be happy to put you in contact with him.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that's great. And what was theirs called?
It's Horses Healing Hearts.
Okay,
and it's in Delray Beach, Florida, okay. At the most beautiful, I guess, a barn. Yeah. And and also they deal with PTSD and adults going through rehab. And the adults don't ride the horses, but you go into this, I guess, like a pen, a big, huge pen with a bunch of horses. And even people that are like, oh, I'm scared of horses. And you just relax, and it's almost like a Zen feeling.
Yeah.
And people we asked them prior, what is your anxiety level? And they're like, oh, 8 or 9 or 10. And I always say, listen, come with me and I won't let a horse hurt you. And the people that are 8 or 9 or 10, all of a sudden just come out of their shell, and they're petting the horse and they're walking with it. And it's a really great feeling for them. But obviously, selfishly, it's a great feeling for me also. And, the other volunteers and the, the employees of HHH.
Yep. That is really cool. And
yeah, I grew up on a ranch in a farm, growing up, and dealt with some struggles of youth and that type of thing. And I tell you, man, there's something about horses and even just some animals in general that it's so therapeutic and healing. It is incredible. I don't know, especially horses. I don't know what it is. There's something so cool about horses.
And I've got to say something to Gary. I've never told Gary this one. I remember one time there was a particularly stressful time. I think it was a semester over at Arizona State, and a bunch of us got together, went down to Gary's ranch down in Benson, Arizona, middle of nowhere, man. It's still in the middle of nowhere, but that's why everyone goes there. Yeah. But I remember when Gary pulled out a horse, and it was as if every worry dissipated. And I've never told you that, Gary. I just remember that very clearly. You let it out, you put the bridle on, you let it out. And it was all of a sudden we didn't have a discussion about any of the stresses back over in college. It was just, we're here. Now we're here. And it's to your point, there's these other sources that other sources called horses.
They are, almost like the what is it, like the truth serum. That's what they do. They are, you have to be present with the horse. You can't just be thinking about something else. You have to be also cognizant of your space, because they could trample you.
Yeah, they're big.
Yeah, and also they know who is confident, just like dogs.
Yeah,
they know who's confident and is not, or full of shit.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, they knock your tooth out too.
Yeah.
Not gonna care.
I got a few experiences of my own. Yeah. Well, and the thing that's kind of cool about using animals and horses or whatever it is it also transcends it doesn't matter where you come from or what your background is. You can take a kid from the country, you can take a kid from the inner city, you can take them from anywhere, and there's always that immediate bond. It's really cool to see. So I'm stoked to see that stuff's happening.
It really is just it can really change someone.
It really can. Oh my goodness, there's all kinds of things that are flowing in my heart, my head right now. And we've got to introduce you to some other people, including one of the guests that we just podcasted with earlier in the week.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, and you met Anthony Capozzoli. He's doing great things over there as well. So there's so many synergies over here that I'm pretty pumped about.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah,
I want to pivot just a little bit, because as we're talking, something that always kind of keeps coming back to my mind is, with so many social issues, especially with things that have stigmatism like mental health and addiction, that type of thing, it seems like people don't get it or understand it until it becomes in extremely close proximity. So like the changes that the direction in your life was directly because of someone very close to you passed away, and that had an effect on you.
Well, it's interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
I actually, on the 30th of this month, it would be 20 years, I had a massive stroke.
Whoa.
I was 35 years old, and I was living life. I mean, I was, I had 2 companies. I was just living the high life. And I had I had the flu or a bad cold. I went home early from work, and I never take any drugs. I don't do anything like that. And there was something in my medicine chest, and I didn't know it, but it was recalled and expired. Oh. And I took it. It was like a cold and flu tablet. I went to bed and I woke up and I couldn't feel my shoulder.
Oh,
And I'm like, all right, maybe I'm dreaming, maybe I slept on it wrong or whatever. And so I went back to sleep. And when I woke up, I had the same problem. So I went out of bed and I fell because I was paralyzed.
Oh man.
So I went to the phone when we had phones, and I called my office, and my assistant, which is my one of my best friends, my partner, and that was his aunt. And I couldn't speak, and she hung up, and I called back, and she hung up because there's no one there. And I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 times. And I didn't know, but I'm looking like, I don't know what's going on, but this is pretty serious. And I guess this is it for me.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, I hear the sirens. And my partner and one of my best friends called 911. And they broke into my apartment, and they rescued me.
Wow.
But again, I didn't know that I was having a stroke. And in the end, I was paralyzed. I couldn't speak at all. I had to relearn everything. And you're in medicine. You understand that. And I had to. I'm talking about going back to kindergarten, ABCs, how to read, how to. I remember when they were saying, "Okay, here is how you tie your shoes." And next time you tie your shoes, think about it. There's a lot of things that you have to do. And I'm like, did I know that? And so that was, I'm not a religious guy at all, but I think God or someone needed to humble me. And that is the path that led to the treatment center and the TV show. Because I don't know if I would have been there without the empathy that I guess I was lacking.
Yeah, that's amazing.
By the way, and you probably know this, Gary, there is a part of the brain that is responsible for your speech.
yep.
Another one that is responsible for singing, and another one for cursing. So
Yep.
of course, the one that I was missing was the speaking. I can curse and I can sing. Not good, but I can sing. So I learned a lot about the brain, and it took me a while to be comfortable. I would never imagine that I would be on your podcast 20 years later, when just speaking with music or interruptions and other stimulus would have destroyed me.
That is, I'm telling you, the people that are listening, you are an incredible success story. I mean, that is unbelievable. Just the symptoms you had, and the fact that you are moving and talking and stuff today is amazing.
Well, I appreciate it. And that's why, it's a cliche, but without your health, you're nothing. Mm-hmm. And, since that, I've always worked out. I took karate, I did everything, but I rarely drink. It's almost offensive when people are smoking because, it's bad for you. But again, that's my feelings, and everybody has to do their own thing. But I eat pretty well, and I do the, you know, I think I do the right thing for my health, because I've been there, and it's not you know, it's not pleasant when you don't have your health.
Yeah.
Well, and I think to put a little perspective on this, you know, to tie it into what we're talking about with mental health and addiction, how would you feel if somebody said that your stroke was, you know what, that was your fault, get over it?
Yeah.
Treat, come
That's
on,
a
man,
great
shake
point.
it off, shake it off. This was your fault, I don't know why, you know, but there's a lot of people
And deal with it.
yeah,
And
deal
deal
with
with it. And then, you know, and of course, a lot of mental health symptoms, I guess, or you can't see it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And that's the problem with, you know, people. You don't know what's going through my brain or your brain or your brain, and maybe there is a issue. And, you know, if you break your arm, you go to the hospital and they, you know, take care of you and you're good. And, you know, they are compassionate. But if you have a mental health issue and you don't even realize it,
Yep.
and people don't want to be involved, you know, this guy is a little bit crazy. I need to, you know, stay away, instead of saying, hey, you know, do you need someone to talk to? And, you know, but I think a lot of these things are, I don't know, people are more accepting now.
Yeah, it goes back to that acceptance, right? It goes back to the individual that at 8 years old became addicted to drugs. It's that acceptance. Sounds so kumbaya-ish, right? But it's I'm finding every time that there's a monster problem, it always comes back to the kumbaya-ish stuff that is going to make a difference.
And, you know, I'm from New Jersey. I was not raised by kumbaya.
I
You
know, man.
Yeah, if I can't feel it or touch it, it's not real.
Yeah, yeah.
But as I don't know if it's, you know, the times, or you get a little bit older and you understand that, you know, this is not a simple life. This is not going from A to B.
Right.
There's a lot of ups and downs, and, you know, struggles, and you know, but, you know, I'm a big proponent of the law of attraction, and you know, you really, you know, fight the negative you know, self-talk,
Mhm.
and try to be, you know, positive, and always have a positive spin. And, you know, I've been up, I've been down, but, you know, once I knew that I can get better, when I was recovering from my stroke, then it was just a challenge.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, they said, you know, the doctors say, if you don't have another stroke in 45 days, you're good. For 45 days, you're like, all right.
Yeah. I can't even
You
imagine.
know,
Can't even fathom, man. Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
But, you know, and, you know, I always, you know, and I couldn't speak at all for, you know, 3 months. So now I talk and talk and talk, because
can make up for
making
lost
up for
time.
that.
Plus, you're New Jerseyite, man. You always talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm gonna do another pivot here too, because all of the things that you've ever done, even though they start out as a self project, they inevitably help other people. This project, Addiction Unplugged, included. But then we were talking about another thing, and I know that you can't delve into it a whole bunch, but you're talking about podcasters reaching out, giving them a voice, multiplying that voice. And there's something that another little project that comes up is Pick Cherries. I was
Yes.
just wondering what you can tell us about that, because now Stoke Meter is part of that in a small little way, and you.
Well, I appreciate you signing up, and, you know, I can't really talk about it because we're gonna we're gonna publish a press release soon,
Right.
but it's by podcasters for podcasters. And, I've evolved also, and it's all about community inclusion and positivity.
Right.
And it's, first of all, I appreciate you guys being on Pick Cherries, and we're gonna release something in about 10 days, and our platform is going to be live, January 1st, and
Awesome.
I really think it's going to disrupt the podcast ecosystem. But going back to your question, and we were talking about this earlier, everybody has a voice now.
Yeah.
Probably for $500, you can. We're on Zoom.
Right.
So so everybody has a voice, and everybody has their issues. And I went to a podcast conference in Tampa last week, and I met some unbelievable podcasters, and everybody has that little niche. I mean, the niche of a niche of a niche. And I met this woman that has her podcast was all about food trucks for African American owners.
Wow.
And that is a niche of a niche of a niche.
Yeah.
But she's doing very well, and she is the authority.
Wow.
And so it's a new it's a new day, and it's great. And you can go to pickcherries.com and learn a little bit more. But we have some great news and really great announcements. But it's I love this, and I'm not a podcaster because my voice is not really suitable for
fine. Are you kidding?
but actually I bought this little microphone, so I can be but we have a bunch of podcasters as investors, and they understood what we're doing. I told you, Maurice, what we're doing, and it will really help a lot of podcasters and listeners. So I'm really excited about that.
No, I'm so excited. He told me about a little bit what you guys are doing, and that is exciting. And the thing that I really like about podcasting and what's happening in that space is it's almost the antithesis or the cure of big media.
Oh yes.
And that type of stuff. So what we're doing right now isn't clickbaity at all. It's not just throwing crap out to try and get eyeballs. It's giving people a voice, like you said, in whatever niche or whatever space is there, they now have a voice. And I think that's going to be one of the big things that reigns in the internet, so to speak.
Yeah. And
really makes a positive difference, because I think that we're kind of seeing that change in the interwebs or in the internet, where we had something that was so big and great and powerful that was kind of just ran amok for so long, that now people are starting to say, okay, let's make this a positive thing. Yeah. And so I'm really excited to see. Yeah, I think you are going to be a disruption in the
Well, thank you. And it's all about positivity.
Yes.
The internet, the trolls, it's very easy to speak negatively.
Right.
Not face to face, but you can just have a message or whatever. And, people are, sick of that.
Yeah.
They are.
And, and people are not going to listen to negative, audio.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and you continue to be an inspiration, Stu.
Well, I appreciate that. And, it's interesting. I don't know if I have a character defect or just being a entrepreneur, but I have ideas and then I run with it.
Yeah.
And that is the most, I love that feeling. Like, I had this idea for Pick Cherries, I don't know, a year and a half ago. And, and I think Elon Musk says, ideas are crazy until they're not.
Exactly.
Like good ideas are crazy until they're not.
Yep.
And it's really, and I've done this several times with other ideas, and and then you take a breath and be like, wait, I had an idea, and all of a sudden we have 20 people that are working for us, and it's helping people or putting food on everybody's table. I mean, it's a really great affliction to have.
Yeah, no, it really is cool, and I agree with you. I in my past life, I started and ran multiple businesses, and I think that I have a lot of respect for people that can take an idea, because everybody has an idea. Everybody has a the game changer idea of what's going to change the world. But it's the people like you, it's the people like Elon Musk, it's the people that actually execute and make those become a reality. That is, to me, is that's where the real action happens. That's where the things happen.
But you also have to accept that you can fail.
Yep.
Oh yeah, and you probably will.
That's part of it. It's interesting when I started Addiction Unplugged. Everywhere that I went, everybody was like, I had the same idea.
Yeah. Then why did you do something about it?
Right?
Because you're afraid of failure.
Well, again, I guess I'm willing to fail.
And that's huge, because if you look at what the disruption that's happening right now in media through podcasts and other formats, YouTube, whatever it might be, even YouTube's getting a little bit reined in, but when you look at what's happening in the workforce too, the disruption is occurring with remote work now. And all of a sudden people are realizing that they don't have golden handcuffs anymore. Matter of fact, that's a false institution anymore, is the so-called golden parachute and such. And what you're doing right here with everything that you've done by recreating yourself and putting all these fantastic little things there into place is further evidence of it. And I'm positive this is why Sean went to you and just go, you know what, let's do this thing because this rocks. And you took a totally different slant. Instead of what Gary said about the clickbait of addiction, well, how about overcoming that, man? Showing the broader, better story. And I think that's what you and I know Gary's helped me to do it, but what's the better end? What's the better story, man?
Well, I love when people say, oh, I've been clean for 20 years or 10 years or 5 years. I'm like, congratulations, man. It's whatever you do after, it is, you overcome something that is huge, that it's not just a choice. And I, always, even if you have a mental health issue and you get over it, I applaud you.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I'll tell you what, Stu, there are so many things, and I have a feeling we're going to see you again on the show, just everything that you're doing, and especially as Pick Cherries launches, but your stories are amazing. And I'm loving it because Gary had some he was lighting some light bulbs right over here, man. It was awesome too.
I'm just
Hearing
saying,
both of you go for it.
we got a lot more to talk about.
It's listen, when I spoke to Maurice for the first time, I've never seen you're like a I told you, like a Asian Tony Robbins.
Only about a foot shorter and a lot millions less.
Yeah, but you're both of you guys are so positive, and you're smiling and you're positive, and people like that energy. And I wish you all the best, and because people want good energy.
Sure.
Well, we appreciate
you guys,
that.
And you guys have it. So, I appreciate you, having me as your guest. And we'll see each other in the past. I mean, in the future. Absolutely.
That sounds good to me, man. Well, Stu, thank you for the time. This has been a blast.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right.